So we discussed negotiation tactics very briefly. Basically, I just picked a few that are quite common or relatively extreme. So we have a negotiation strategy that is often found in the Middle East, where there's extreme demands from buyer side and supplier side. So it's very common that at the beginning of the negotiation, both sides are very far apart, and then it's a matter of who has the longest breath. So very small concessions, and then take it one step at a time, and try to get as much value as possible. Actually, it's a kind of win-lose negotiation strategy. And it's very important that if you meet negotiators like that you have a good partner, and that you keep your calm. So make sure that if you're going to negotiate for a carpet in a Egyptian carpet shop, that you are very well aware of the price that you would have to pay in Tokyo for a carpet. Because you might be up for a surprise and actually be paying more in that shop. Another one is the commitment tactic is well, basically, sorry, I cannot make this kind of concession to you. I need to contact my boss. That could be played. It's a tactic that's often used by Western negotiators, but it's also often used by Japanese negotiators. Unfortunately, Japanese negotiators may actually not be able to make that kind of concession, really. The thing is that we are being trained that concessions are not be able to make concessions are just negotiation tactics. So a lot of Western negotiators may question whether you're trying to play a trick on them, and could respond very negatively. So it is definitely not it's not advisable to play this tactic if you can avoid it. We are being taught to always negotiate with decision makers, otherwise you're wasting your time. And decision makers are usually not at the table from the Japanese side. So commitment tactics, be careful. Then the take it or leave it negotiation. Okay, take it or leave it is very simple. You take a position and you say, okay, this is my position and I will not budge. That's a very hardball negotiation strategy. So I'm going to sell a car and say I want 4 million, and the buyer says, okay, I'm not going to pay more than 3. That could easily result in a deadlock. The best way to deal with the strategy is to basically ignore the position and try to make a counter offer that is closer to the interest of both parties. If that doesn't work, then you may end up not getting a deal. Better not to ever use this take it or leave it negotiation strategy. I believe Uno-san, in the past, when we were talking about China, you mentioned that the Chinese can also make very strong demands, and I believe the way that you dealt with it is say that, oh, of course I can do that, but, and then you would demand very strong concessions in other fields by the Chinese side, and keep the negotiations going that way. So if you are confronted with negotiation strategy, try to keep your head calm and try to make a counter offer, not ignoring the take it or leave it negotiation strategy. Inviting unreciprocated offers, that is, for example, if we are negotiating the same negotiation, that the car salesman is trying to offer you a car for 4 million, and basically, when you are negotiating the price and you say, well, sorry, I can't go beyond 3, and the car salesman says, well, okay, maybe, you know what, I can let you buy this car for 3.8, and then what I would say, if I would apply this tactic, I would say, if you make it 3.6, we may have a deal. And then the car salesman might be inclined to say, okay, well, let's make it 3.7. But be careful there, because the rules of the game for a European negotiator are that when you are making a concession, you want something in return. Like, for example, if you want to have this car for 3.8, I'm sorry, but I cannot include that navigation system in there. So I can lower the price, but in that case, it comes without the navigation system. When you use this inviting unreciprocated offers, you are basically, instead of making a concession, you're actually asking for a deeper concession. So that is it's a smart tactic. But if you're aware of it, then don't fall for it. Trying to make you flinch. Actually, I thought about this on the way back last Saturday. It's not flinch. The English term, I believe, is flinch. Sorry for that. I changed it on the sheet, but I believe that the term is flinch, Flinch, and basically it means that you are kind of like closing your eyes very briefly when you are kind of shocked. So one side is trying to make you shock, or making you resist. So trying to make you flinch is basically just putting a lot of pressure on you, making greater and greater demands on you, and just trying to negotiate until you break. This is a very hard bargaining strategy, and the only way that you can do it, say, okay, well, sorry, but this is not the way it works. If we are not going to make mutual concessions, we will never reach an agreement. If you can do that, then that will be the best strategy. Next, please. Personal insults, that's another one. Could happen that the other side is very, very rough. They are trying to make you feel smaller, and they do that by personal attacks, by making you feel very uneasy. It's often accompanied by other strategies, like putting you in a waiting room for an hour, even though you have an appointment at 3, just letting you wait, and don't put on the air conditioner, so you're sweating, feeling very uncomfortable, and then you're being insulted by the buyer, for example. That is a way to make you vulnerable, so that you are easier to make concessions, because you just want to get it over with. That is a strategy that is very could be very effective, but try to keep your cool and play it and make sure that you put it on the table. So just name it, put it on the table, and ask whether they will be so kind to put on the air conditioner, and that remind them that they had an appointment at 3, and maybe it's better to come back another time. But this can be very intimidating and unpleasant. So in that case, again, call it out, put it on the table, and try the other side to stop this negotiation tactic, or otherwise it's better to leave. Bluffing, puffing, and lying is basically just lie about whatever you have. So okay, this is the best I can do. Sorry, but my hands are tied. I have another buyer for this house that is going to put $500,000 on the table tomorrow. So if you want to buy it, you need to give me at least $500,000 right now. Otherwise, it will not be a deal. Well, you can be pretty skeptical about these kind of claims, and better take your time to research it, because if you get the feeling that the other side is bluffing, then just don't make a deal, and investigate whether they are really telling the truth. Threats and warnings. What was that? Right. So yeah, actually, really threats. So okay, that could be if you are a supplier, then the customer, and you're negotiating a deal, then the other side may feel in the position that they can basically blackmail you into unfair concessions. They could threat, okay, well, if you're not going to buy this, if you sell this to me at this price, then basically our relationship is off, and you better deliver that this week or something, another unreasonable demand.
What is different from threat and bluffing? Looks same.
Well, threats is more about the deal itself. Personal insults is more about the person. So it's very much aimed at upsetting the negotiator. It's not so much about the deal itself. And threats and warnings are more about the deal itself. So if you don't agree to deliver this software by the end of next month, then we will stop all further deals with you. For example, that's a threat. If you are a software vendor and you are you have a partnership. It may be that the other side is in a difficult situation. Then they demand for you to complete something by next month. But if that is impossible, like absolutely impossible, they may actually use their position with that they have with your company to demand it and threaten that they will basically stop all economic relationship with you. And yeah, that's it could be very effective, of course, because there's an unequal balance. But threatening, basically, you need to diffuse, otherwise you'll be pushed around, and you'll need to give in to demands that you may not be able to reach. I know that this, for example, sometimes happened in the car industry when car makers were not making their profit numbers. They demanded their suppliers to reduce the price by unreasonable amounts, and a lot of small suppliers got into trouble over that. Because of course, if you're forced to reduce your price by 10-15%, then it could be that you have to operate at a loss, just to weather the profit numbers of companies like Toyota. Belittling alternatives is okay. You can say, well, if you are a buyer, you can tell the car salesman that, oh, well, actually, sir, I'm considering to buy this other car, from the other brand. So I might be looking at a BMW, but my partner is a Volvo, and I may be telling this to the bike. And what could happen very easily is, Volvos are you kidding me? I mean, they're not reliable. They don't have a good engine. So a lot of things that people can do to actually trying to reduce the value of your alternative, and thereby decreasing your partner, so that they have more leverage over you and get a better deal on their car. Good cop, bad cop is a kind of famous strategy where you're negotiating with two or at least two people, where one side is trying to drive a very hard bargain, making unreasonable demands, take it or leave it strategy, feather ruffling, threats. All these things might be used by one party, and then the other might be pretending to be your friend, and say, okay, well, he's not such a bad guy, but he's going through some difficult times, and maybe I can do something for you. And then the good cop can propose you a solution which is much better than what the bad cop did, but still you might be in a deal that is actually much worse for you than you were aiming for. So be careful when you are in a situation like this, because it could actually lead you to make much more concessions than you would normally do. Right? So these are our tactics. These are kind of tricks that you could encounter when you are dealing with Western negotiators.